Welcome, one and all, to the Best Comedy Series panel at the IAWTV Awards, CES 2012. So we're going to go down the line first, and everyone will introduce themselves. My name is Jessica Mills. I'm the creator of Awkward Embraces, and I'm your moderator.
Me? Yeah. I'm Kim Evey, and I'm the producer of The Guild and Dragon Age Redemption.
we have time.
Seriously, you can.
I'm Clancey, and I'm a co-creator of Gigi, Almost American.
My name is Becker, and I direct both The Guild and the Jeff Lewis 5-Minute Comedy Hour.
I'm Matt Lewis, and I directed and one of the creators of Video Game Reunion.
I'm Steve Silverman, and I'm the creator of Pretty.
All right, so to get us started, how did you guys all get your start in web series? And have you always done comedy, or?
Are we going in order? Let's go out of order. Go out of order.
Let's get wild and go out of order.
Go crazy.
I call Sean.
Awesome. Finally win something. All right, yeah, as far as web series go, I got my start off doing short films and did the kind of the festival circuit for a while, and then kind of realized that there's really, as far as like doing a short film at a film festival, like it's cool to have a film in there, but then nothing really comes of it. It's just more of an exhibition, and then once it's done, like nothing really happens. So for a while, I didn't really know what else to do, so I had acquired enough short films, and then a buddy of mine, Payman Benz, who I went to school with, was doing the same thing. So basically we took all of our short films, put them together, threw them up online, and at the time YouTube was more like viral videos and home videos, and there wasn't a lot of produced stuff up at the time, so all of a sudden we put up this whole channel of just actually produced short films, and then through that we actually got to do a sketch show for Sony where I got to work with Kim Evey, and then but actually before that we had known each other, but then that led to working with Kim Evey, that led to working on The Guild, and then meeting all the cast there, including Jeff Lewis, which led to his show. But yeah, it all started from just short films online, which later evolved into doing web series. I don't think that's it. and then now this. So,
Okay, thank you all for coming. That'll be, no, I'm kidding.
So do I get to pick the next person?
Yes.
Go.
My mother wanted me to sell a screenplay, and I was like, I'll do that at some point. I started actually doing plays, and I have had 20 plays and 1 musical produced nationwide. And it's the same thing, and as my friend Stacy and I have talked about, it's awesome to see your work up on a stage, and then it's over, and it's never seen again, and it's cool for that audience that was there that night, you know, and saw it. And then I wanted something a little more permanent that would be up for a while. And I've never done, I filmed stuff for TV for promo that I do, but I've never done a series like this. And just sort of dove in, not quite knowing what I was doing, and we sort of learned trial by fire. Actually, we went first and watched what everyone else was doing, and made a list of all the things we liked and all the things we didn't like, and tried to figure out, you know, where we could improve from it. And we went from there. So it's kind of a virgin expedition, if you will. And go.
No pressure. I got started in a kind of peculiar way. I started in the late 90s at Universal Studios doing viral video for Universal Pictures. So I started off actually on American Pie, and we were doing kind of the initial viral campaign for that, which was still like, you know, YouTube.com was still available as a domain, I think, at the time. This was a pretty long time ago. So that was I kind of started on the studio side of doing these things, and my focus wasn't really about online. My focus was actual production. I was a cinematography instructor for Kodak for a while, so I used to teach people how to shoot, you know, like on Arri and Panavision cameras. Film has always really been kind of what I do. Did a lot of stupid TV commercials and nationals in my life. But eventually I ended up eventually we ended up kind of transitioning out of doing commercials and doing like production content for hire. And a couple years ago we just decided, what the hell, let's give it a shot. We had a good idea that something we could do with Comedy Central. Said, well, this will never make it to television, but it's definitely the kind of thing we could go play around and try something on the web if we have a business model for it. So we put together a business model for this little show, Video Game Reunion, and pitched it to Comedy Central, and they totally loved it. So it was, as much as I creatively love the show, it was kind of a proof of concept for us. So I'm really more focused on the business side and traditional media. And as much as I love new media, and I'm definitely playing a lot in that arena, I try to bridge those two things together as much as possible. I try to draw from kind of the disciplines of old media and carry some of those things forward into the things we're going to do in new media. So I have a kind of a unique perspective. We do things a little bit differently around our around our shop, so to speak. And it's interesting being in an environment like this, because it's just such a different type of group of people. Like, everybody seems to have come from a place that's very different from where we came from. So it's a unique perspective on both sides, I think, and I've always found that interesting. And Kim.
It's so weird. Can you guys hear us? Because up here it sounds like I started improvising in 1986. Seriously. And I moved to LA in 2000, and all my roads come from a place called Acme Comedy Theater. I met my husband there, who is in Mediocre Films on YouTube. I met Felicia Day there. Well, I didn't meet Sean Becker there, but that's where I learned to take improv and write comedy. A sketch that I wrote for Acme, my husband shot and we put online. It was called Gorgeous Tiny Chicken Machine Show, and it was like a crazy little sketch, and we ended up selling that to Sony, the same slate that Sean and Payman were in for the first Crackle, what was it called back then? It was called C-Spot, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
So that started me online, and then I was actually in a little women's group with Felicia, because it's hard in LA. I don't know if you guys are all from LA, but so for me, community has been the only way I've been able to do any of this. I literally spent years sitting in my house, smoking cigarettes and going I should be doing something with my life while I was playing cards online. So don't do that. Instead, get a group together. And so Felicia brought the script to the Guild, and she was like, I don't know what to do with this. And since I had Gorgeous Tiny online, I was like, you know what, let's just do it. And it was the same thing. We had no idea what we were doing. Gorgeous Tiny is shot in my back office, which is like a 9-foot space, one camera, 2 angles, and you're done. And then we were like, let's just do the Guild. And it was a lot more complicated, but that's how I got started online.
Picked last.
It's like dodgeball all over again.
We should play dodgeball.
Second
That's
that.
how we,
I co-created Gigi alongside the Lost Nomads. You're going to hear me talk about them a lot because without them I wouldn't be here. They were a stage comedy group back in early 2000s, and I was a director and editor, and they wanted to start putting their stuff online, and so they got me to shoot some of their stuff, and it was just a beautiful relationship from the beginning. So we started shooting a ton of sketch stuff that we put online, and we shot a couple pilots for web series with Fox that didn't really go anywhere, but BBC picked up Gigi, and the rest was history. We shot the pilot through BBC, and then they found My Damn Channel, which was our co-sponsor, and that's it. Gigi is the end of it. Start over, there's a new beat.
So for all of your shows, talk us through your collaboration process, from start to when you say cut, and then through the editing process, as far as finding the comedic moments and developing all of that.
I would say, for me, everything starts as a writer. And if it's cheesy to say, but if it's not on the page, then it's not there for me. A lot of people ask about our show, is it improv? Are they improving? And the answer is no. I wrote every damn word and they're saying them as right. No, it is. And what I do as a director is we go through the scene, and I rarely say cut, because we're we're rolling, and we just keep going and going, and that's where a lot of the little improv moments come out, and I try to figure out how I'm going to edit them in. But for us and for me, it always begins with what's on the page, and if it's going to be funny, it's got to be funny from the get-go, and you can look down on it and go, you know, scene by scene, for me in anything I write, it's got to be worth sitting through that specific scene. I don't like any extraneous scenes. I can show you, you know, actual scripts of Pretty, and then show you what we took out was just this, oh, okay, trim the fat, trim it, trim it, trim it, trim it, trim it. And I think that's, for me, where the comedy comes from. And then also, I feel we have an incredible cast. And I lucked out because 5 of them are very good friends of mine, and then we cast our lead, and it just all came together from the get-go, and they got it from the get-go. So in terms of that, my advice always to anybody who's starting on any project is, you know, make sure that you have a story and that you have characters, and if it's a character-driven story, make sure the characters are going to drive that story, and if it's a plot-driven story, make sure the plot is worth sitting through. You know, otherwise it's like 80% of the dreck that you see on television right now, in my opinion.
It's really similar for Felicia, I'll say, that, but it's obviously the Guild, it stems from characters, and when she did Dragon Age, it was the same thing. I know it's a comedy panel, but it's the same thing. And for Felicia, she writes, she goes away, she writes, depending on the season, she either writes it really fast or she writes it over several months and cries a lot. And then at a certain point, Sean and, usually Sean and I see it pretty early on, and we kind of give our input a little bit, mostly at that point just on structure, just because I think that's the hardest thing for her, because, you know, the thing about web series, it's very different, and especially with the Guild, is like, you know, she packs an awful lot into, you know, like 8 pages, and so then it's like, well, what's the best, you know, are we getting everything in? Is there, you know, should these scenes go here, et cetera, and then after she's pretty happy with it, she usually does like another comedy pass with a couple of the actors, and just to see if anything jumps out at them. But same thing, like a lot of the stuff is, I mean, everything is written. Some of the stuff that makes it to the screen is improvised, but that's usually Sandeep and Jeff, and it's usually me telling Sean, like, make them do it on the page first and then let them go, because they always want to just go off first, but we're like, please just give us one, the way it's written, so then we can play with what you're doing, so, yeah.
We are, like I said, the Lost Nomads, it's a collaborative group. We've got a couple writers actually here. Kevin Larson and Tyler Moore are here, and just to kind of give you an idea of the structure, we have Tyler Moore and Kevin Larson are the writers, but they're also really good actors. Tyler Moore is kind of a structure king. He can write fluently in any genre, which if you've seen Gigi, you can see that every episode kind of takes on a different genre. But more importantly, he knows how to take that genre and flip it on its head to make the scene really interesting. Kevin Larson is probably our most avant-garde writer. He's always trying to find new ways of telling jokes and finding the line so he can cross it. And Josh Gad, who plays Gigi, if any of you have been to New York and seen Book of Mormon, he's the lead in that. And he's our resident comic genius. The guy can't go wrong. The way he can slip into a character is really, really amazing. And Ida Darvish is our producer. She just is sort of our glue, holding us all together, making sure we all stay on track. And like I said, I direct, I edit, I do all the sound effects, visual effects, everything else. And that's our collaborative process. Sean, I pick you.
Thank you, sir. With Comedy Hour, basically, the story behind that show is when Jeff and I worked together on the Guild, obviously, like, you know, we spent a lot of time together on set, so eventually he said, hey, you know, I've got a couple sketches, I've been looking to film them, and Jeff's been writing sketch comedy for a very long time, and through that he's acquired like 30 plus really funny scripts. And they're and the cool thing about his show is that these scripts come from them being workshopped live in front of audiences for years. And so he's always just been used to doing them on stage and never really thought until recently, like, hey, you know, maybe we can try to film one of these. And so I said, okay, which one do you want to film? And he said, I'll send you like 6 scripts and pick the one you like and we'll film that one. And so I loved all 6 of them. And I said, how many of these do you have? And he's like, I've got ton, and I write them all the time. And you know, these have all been, well, which ones have performed good in front of an audience? And so he picked 10 that we were capable of filming, because the way that the show goes is I think it took us 2 years to do season 1. Sorry. And so, because we just did it in our spare time, because Jeff has other work, I have other work, him and I were literally just funding the show ourselves through tons of favors. Like, I would have people come work. In exchange, I would help them edit a reel, or I would come direct something for them, and they would come act, or Jeff would go act in someone else's short. And so we did that for 2 years. It didn't really pay anybody. And then eventually we got to do the shows. And so, but through the process, it's literally just me and Jeff. And so everything on page is usually what we see on screen. Very, very minimal improv, if none, on the show, because Jeff knows exactly what's worked, what's gotten a laugh. And my role as a director in the show is, if you've seen this show, the scenes are, at their core, very static scenes. They're usually like 2 people at a table, or someone like at a drive-through, and the whole scene is just there. So I try to add little elements that separate it from stage, so that I just don't have to go to one of his performances and just tape it. It's the exact same thing. Like, we want to add a little bit more. So obviously just through shot selection, through maybe like even using visual gags that you can only do in film, we've been able to add a little bit of that to these scripts. And so right now we're working on season 2, and we did a Kickstarter account, and we raised $27,000 just through fans of the first season. So now, you know, we do have a little bit of a budget to where we can pay people, and we can do the more, like season 2 is gonna be a very more ambitious season. Like, this season was basically just short scenes. This one, there's, you know, a scene in space. There's a scene where he plays Noah and he's building the ark, and there's a scene, I don't wanna, maybe I should just spoil them all. Yeah, but basically, like, you know, there'll be a lot of periods in time where we'll go and more ambitious stuff, bigger casts and stuff. But yeah, at the core, it's just me and Jeff. I edit the show. I'll send Jeff a pass, and he's very particular, so literally it always comes down to him and I just sitting together and editing the show until we're happy with it, and then we just put it out when we can. Are you asking a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask a question. I mean, like, how do you guys feel as far as, you guys have had a lot of success with web series. How do you feel like, have you guys been approached by networks and kind of people kind of trying to adjust what you've done?
Well, let's have Matt talk about Video Game Reunion really quick, and then we'll get right to that question.
We're actually going to have a Q&A session at the end, so then people can come up and use the mic. No problem at all.
You're out of line, sir.
I'm gonna flip this thing. No,
Yeah, this is.
We can't hear you because you didn't speak into that microphone.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's like you never said it. I think the question was about the collaborative process.
Yeah, what your collaborative process was like on Video Game Reunion.
So I think there's maybe 2 things there. He kind of started on writing. We do have a very, I think between when you're on set and shooting, and then of course when you're writing, I think are 2 very different processes. I was a head writer on VGR, but we had an incredibly collaborative writing process, which we actually kind of shot the whole writing process too, just as an exercise. We sent everybody away for a couple days to Santa Barbara, and we locked 5 or 6 or 7 people in a room for 3 days in Santa Barbara and said, nobody leaves here until we figure out what this show is going to be. And at some point in the night, there's actually footage of me saying, like, somebody shot this, and I'm playing Nintendo, and it's like, what are we going to call this show anyway? Video Game Reunion? That's fucking awful. Like, that's a stupid name. We got to get somebody else. I was like, we got to call it, that's the Blue Harvest. We'll call it something else tomorrow. And then it just never changed. And that's actually how the show got its title. But we sat there, and at night we would quite literally drink and play Nintendo. And every time anybody said anything funny, they would write it down on an index card. And so we had this huge stack of index cards. The next morning when we woke up, we're like, God, did we write all that down? And then we took all of those things, and we spent the entire day looking at these gags and saying, these are really funny. Here's the funny ones, here's the awful ones, and starting to determine who these characters in Video Game Reunion were going to be. And we came up with a story structure and started taking the cards and using them to mold the characters and the story as we went along. And by the time we left on Sunday, we had essentially like a college thesis-like outline of what the season was going to look like. We knew that Peach was going to get arrested. We knew that we determined it would be funny if Mario and Samus got together instead of Mario and Peach, and that Bowser would be kind of and they had a daughter. We kind of just made it all up, and by the time the weekend was over, we'd all had a pretty good go at it. And then a second process started where myself and a handful of others actually wrote the script over the course of about 2 months, and we would just get together and we would turn the outline into actual dialogue. How much of it is improv? I would say we had a tremendous amount of improv. Switching now onto the on-set stuff, the most important thing you can do on a show is surround yourself with smart people and let them do what they do. And trying to put too much structure around that is dangerous because you start putting people into a box. So if my actor thinks they have something, we always shoot a take straight right off the script, clearly. But we always give them an option to go off book if they think they've got something better, because you're already there. All you have to do is run it, and if you have it, you have it. And if you don't shoot it, you never have it. So you can't make the choice later. So, and we have, we hired every single person on our show was an improv actor. So if they thought, if we would shoot the scene and they would look over at me, they'd be like, can we do that again? It was always just absolutely, we're going to shoot it again, and even if it's not great, at least we have the choice later. So from the crew to the cast, we have 50 to 70 people on the crew of the show. It's a huge show, and the cast was a relatively large cast. And in every department and every head, we tried to make sure we found someone we trusted, someone that was good at their job, and we let them have a lot of free reign. We didn't have like a very controlling top-down power structure. It was, here's the costume department, here's what we want, and Jenny Green, the costume designer, who's actually and Jenny Green, the costume designer, who's actually nominated for one of these awards, she would just run the whole department, and every couple days, show me what she got, and we either approved it or disapproved it, but we let her, have the free reign, and that going, across for all of different department heads. And when you get on set, you've got, a lot of smart people making a lot of good decisions, and it's like a well-oiled machine. So again, I just say fundamentally, handcuff yourself to smart people in this industry, because when you find them, never let them go, because they're only going to bring you good things.
Excellent. So I'm curious if there's a particular moment from the show, a particular moment that is one of your favorite funny moments, and sort of break that down for us and how that developed. Was it in the moment? Did you workshop it over time, or?
Favorite funny moment? That's hard. Favorite moment, period. The abortion scene. What? No.
I thought we weren't going to talk about that. My favorite, most surreal moment was when it has happened twice. We've had a lot of really interesting and fun guest stars come to our show, and it's all just been because someone knew someone who knew someone, and they were willing to work for $350 and some snacks.
That's a lot.
But there was a point twice. There was a point last season when I was sitting directing Joan Van Ark from Knots Landing and staring at her, and the camera's rolling, and she finishes, and she's just staring back at me, and all I'm thinking is, why the hell did Joan Van Ark agree? Why is Joan Van Ark here? What is going on? And that to me is always like a surreal favorite moment. We have a lot of scenes on Pretty, and a lot of it is chaos at times. It's controlled chaos. You said it well. I always say, grab a bunch of really creative, talented people and then get out of their way. And for me, some of the visuals are always my favorite. Is our lead Stacy over there plays a 5-year-old, but then we go ahead and cast real children, and there's just something so joyful about running a camera with 7 pizzaed and sugared up little kids that we do like 5 seconds, 10 seconds before they go on, here, eat this, let's go. And they're like, ah! And then we're filming, and we're just guerrilla filming because one of them's crying and one of them's autistic or God knows what, and I don't know. And but the moment for me is always just so joyous when I'm looking through that camera lens, or I'm looking at the monitor, and I always say to Stacy, it's like a village of tiny people and this giant monster, like in a matching dress, hovering over them. That's always a favorite for me for some reason visually.
Let's go down the line. I guess it's really difficult to pick a favorite, but whatever it would be, it would definitely be something where we went off book and the cast and crew did something together on accident, kind of in the moment, that ended up being funnier than what we thought of, which happened pretty frequently. And especially, again, going back to surrounding yourself with good people, we shot the show documentary style, kind of like The Office, so all the cameras were very frequently handheld, and you could see equipment in shots intentionally. There were several times when we would go completely, like, so far off book that we would leave the room, and we actually, there's one shot in the show where the camera walked 40 or 50 feet from where it started, and it turns 180 degrees around, and you see me, the sound guy, Sean Oakley, and every single person. You see the whole show, all the marks and everything, and it ended up in the show, and it was actually just a really funny kind of half spontaneous thing that had happened, and that happened every once in a while. And there's a couple moments, definitely if I had to pick one, it would be the moment probably when Haley Mancini drew from a story where she actually had in her real life, where she heard a woman tell her Spanish housekeeper very, very loudly to please clean the baño. This is the dialogue this woman actually said to her housekeeper. I'm not sure why she said the first words in English and the last word in Spanish, but she said this and she yelled this into her housekeeper's face. And Haley Mancini, who plays Zelda, is telling the story, and I broke the scene. I was off camera and I laughed so hard we actually shot, like the person sitting across from her in the shot saw me off camera laughing, and they laughed, and we actually blew it. We blew the take got blown, and we used it in the show, and we cut on the frame that you see the edge of his mouth start going up, because if you look at the person sitting next to her, he's looking at me, and I'm eating my shirt, trying not to laugh. My shirt is in my mouth, it's completely in my mouth, my eyes are closed, I can't see what's happening, and Woody Tondorf looks across and sees me doing that, and you just see his mouth go that. If we got one frame further, you would have seen him full on laughing. So that was probably my favorite one.
I actually had a similar moment with Jeff Lewis. There's an episode, and I won't go into the full details of it, but basically it starts off where he's just finished eating a pile of shit to win a bet. And so basically the scene starts with him, and so we don't show it, it's right after it's happened. And so Jeff, his character, just couldn't be prouder of doing it. Like, he was so proud of himself for doing it. And with this show, like, we have very minimal time to rehearse. We actually shot this episode in 3 hours. Like most of the show, we try to shoot 2 episodes in a day, and we're going really fast, and so I don't have a lot of time to go back, watch playback, do this. As a matter of fact, I'm over our DP Chris Darnell's shoulder looking at his 5D, and if you know what the 5D is, a little monitor on camera, it's like that big. And I'm trying to look over his shoulder, and so watching Jeff just say his lines, and if you've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about, but he's so proud that I can't watch him because I'm blowing takes, and I'm usually really good about not doing that because I'm so stressed and so anxious about getting, especially the fact that we have to get this thing done in 3 hours. It's like, let's go, and I'm trying to stay focused. But that was the one time, it's been pretty rare when it's happened, but literally, like, I didn't watch the first maybe 4 takes. Like, didn't watch. I had to turn around, and I'm on the ground in a fetal position. Like I don't know what to do because if I laugh, I'm gonna ruin the take, obviously, but if I even start to shake, I'm right next to the DP and I'm gonna start shaking in, but I'm so paralyzed, and I'm like, okay, cool, we'll do it again. And the same thing happened. So I literally didn't see those takes until I started editing. Like, I saw the framing of it, but it's one of those things where, like, we had to go and I just didn't have the time. So literally in editing, it was like, oh, thank God, okay, cool. But I couldn't watch him through the monitor or even live because I didn't want to blow his concentration. So that's incredibly unprofessional, and I don't recommend it, but that was a moment on set that I can remember.
We shot Gigi over the course of about 5 days, and the last day the last episode we shot was Gigi accidentally walks into an audition for the musical Gigi, and and at this point we hadn't gone into overtime. We had we could kind of just push the limit on it, and watching Josh. Just, basically Gigi starts singing because the director tells him to sing, and he just starts singing whatever's on Gigi's mind. And, Josh is, like I said, he's on Broadway, but hearing him sing badly was really quite fun. And the very last shot of the day was turned around on me. I'm not really an actor, but I put myself in as the director, and my job was to just be frustrated, and I think in order to elicit that out of me, Josh just started saying the strangest things off camera to me, and to the point where I'm just like, just say the line, so I can respond to it. And it ended up being getting I think the perfect reaction out of me. So that was probably going back and watching all the outtakes of that that particular episode was really fun. Just seeing us kind of loosen up and just have fun.
That reminded me, I forgot, we did a thing in the Guild this season where Zabu goes into, they're at a convention, if you haven't seen it, and Zabu goes into one of the panels, which is Morning Fireball's Workout Nerd, and Scott, who played Workout Nerd, oh my, first of all, on the page, that was one of the things that made me laugh out loud. That he's, you know, doing a workout with like video game moves. He's like, and fireball, fireball, ride your mount, ride your mount. But having him do it in person, I can't wait for us to cut together the behind the scenes for our YouTube release because it was really funny. But Robin Thorson this season, like every season, Felicia, I mean, everybody gets great stuff to do, but for whatever reason, this kind of, for me, was Robin's season, and she was so phenomenal in everything. She was so sharp, and she had this, her storyline was that she was enamored of a steampunk booth, and there's a scene where she's wearing these little goggles, and she just, I don't know, she looks like a little creature from another planet, and she's so cute and funny. And then Sean decided at the end of that scene that when she left, dejected, that he would, you know, take the steampunk genre and turn it into like an old-timey black and white, like, you know, what is it called?
Film.
Yes, thank you. So it was brilliant. And that's the other thing that I love about Sean is that, you know, he's like, all of you guys are talking about, like, the best directors are great collaborators. And, you know, Sean is great at writing that line between letting people play when they need to, but really knowing what he wants out of them. And then all of his, but he's really open to ideas from everybody, which is amazing, you know, because it's sort of like, it's comedy, so whoever has the best idea, whether it's, you know, your gaffer sometimes or somebody, you know, it's, I mean, you can't take everybody's idea, obviously, but he's really open to hearing stuff if it's funny, so I think that's really a strength of his. The end.
So we have a wide variety of types of shows here. Some are independent, some sponsored, you know, at different levels. So I'm interested to, you know, what you feel your biggest challenge was while producing this show and getting it up on its feet, and how you worked around it.
I'll go first. Every situation that Gigi encountered was a different situation. So he's in the library one scene, he's in, or one episode, he's in a hospital another episode. And, you know, that's tough to economize all those different locations. Our producer suggested that we check out this place called DC Stages, which is downtown in LA, and they have standing sets. Did you? It's a little gross, but it does the job. But we actually.
I wish that would, they put that on their website. It's a little gross.
It's a little gross, but it does the job.
That's their tagline.
And everyone who's been there is like,
yeah. So we actually we went and walked around the stage and looked at all the standing sets they had, and then wrote our episodes based on those locations. So that was kind of how we were able to economize. That way we were able to stay there all 4 days, and we didn't have to, you know, lug in all the equipment and lug it out at the end of the day. And that really helped us, I think. And it boosted our production value too, just to have, you know, a library that we just walk into, shoot, walk out.
And the owner had a crush on your brother.
Yes, and the owner had a crush on my brother. Yes, that helped.
Okay, I'll jump in real quick because the Guild season 5 was the complete and total opposite of that. I wish we're like, please write to something, anything, put a car in there, do something that will help us. But we ended up shooting in like 5 cities. And we went down to Long Beach. We went to a real convention. We built like, I mean, it was like, I had this great idea. I was like, let's build our fake convention at the end of a convention that'll go up for one day and it'll be a real convention. And I think that convention is in like one shot. So yeah. By the end of the second day, or the third day when the convention was up, our first AD was like, seriously, this is why you guys dragged us down to Long Beach for this one shot? And I was like, oh.
We had 150 extras that day too.
Yeah. So it was really, really, I mean, this is the season that I, as a producer, am most proud of because we, you know, every year we haven't gotten that much more money to make the Guild, and every year Felicia writes it as though we've gotten like double the money for every single season. So this was really, it was a challenge and it was cool, and it's still, I mean, the thing about the Guild is that it is still built on the backs of people, our fans, people who like us, people who are just like, you know, we like what you're doing, and we like that, you know, you've just continued to do this, so we'll help you out here and there. I mean, we've had to. It's crazy. We couldn't have done this season without the help of all these people, so.
We're a completely independent show, and myself and that gentleman over there funded the first season ourselves out of our own pocket. And we just found all these fans, and God bless Kickstarter and Indiegogo and eBay for letting me sell crap from Pretty on it that people will buy. And our second season, 50% of it was funded by our fans, and this season, 100% was funded by our fans. And we went from doing a budget of about $8,500 for the first season, and this past third season we hit about $17,000 for our entire season, for everything, all in, for everything, including a publicist. And I have a really good team in that we stretch our dollar far. Our biggest challenge is our actors keep booking jobs, and because we're on such a limited budget, we'll book the church that we work out of for the Mistari's pageant, and they give us a wonderful church rate. And then our lead, Sam, informed us that he booked that Shit My Dad show with William Shatner last year. He booked 3 episodes, and of course one of the episodes was over the first 3 days that we were filming. And so then we had to move not only all the dates, but all the other actors. I couldn't get one of my others back because she works on Criminal Minds, and she had to go to work on Criminal Minds, so I had to rewrite all these scenes, and I'm like, hopefully no one will notice that her character's there. We'll just assume she's over there in the bathroom, or she's, doing something. Well, I don't know what she's doing right now. And it all got messed up. So that's always been the biggest challenge for us. There was one day when Jennifer booked a callback, with producers audition of some sort for something, and Allison booked a callback for a commercial. And they called me, and then we worked the whole schedule out. Jen in the morning, Allison in the afternoon, accommodated everything, and then they called me and they both got switched. Allison got moved to the morning, Jen got moved to the afternoon, but it's not, it's not just about Jennifer and Allison. We have 15, 20 other people, so it was like the day before, as Stacy can tell you, and we had to flip the entire day and all the outfits and everything, and it was the night before, and I'm like, my head is going to explode. And the good news is that Jennifer booked the job, but Allison didn't. Aww. So that's been the toughest part for us, is just working with our, trying to accommodate everybody and their needs, and luckily we've always been able to.
That's interesting. Yeah, we actually have a very, very different experience in that. I think you said your budget was $17,000 for a season. I think ours was more like $17,000 a day. It was a really expensive show, and you don't see it necessarily in comparison to a lot of other things, but there's a specific reason for that. We're a union show, and part of our business model with the show is to prove, part of the business model with the show is to prove that we can do something like this and pay everybody what they would be getting paid on TV or close to it. More or less, that even all the way down to the PAs, everybody would get paid. We also shot on location in Las Vegas for 2 weeks. We took over a hotel and closed it. We had helicopters, we blew stuff up, and we did all that stuff with all the permits, all of the safety, all of the fire trucks, and the water trucks, and the police officers, and all of everything we needed. We wanted to prove to the network, as a proof of concept, that you can follow these rules, keep the unions happy, keep people's rent paid, and not have to essentially, and not have to get people into a situation where, the people that are running the show are getting their bills paid, but the people at the bottom of the totem pole didn't get their bills paid. And I fundamentally can't do that. Like, I just have it makes me very uncomfortable to ask people to, like, hey, can you come out and do this for $50? And I know that they're gonna do it because they like me or they like the project, but I know that they're really gonna have a hard time making rent that month. Like, if it comes to that, I will generally just not make the project, because the trade-off for me, like, personally, is too high. I just don't feel good about doing that. So we're very insistent that everybody we work with, as far down the pole as we can go, is getting fairly compensated, and otherwise it's just something we tend not to do. So one of the challenges for us were really, like, how do we take that much money, and how do we live up to that standard? How do we take a crew of 50, 60 people, put them on location in Las Vegas, get them there, feed them, pay the hotel to close down for the times we need it? And the answer was just that it took an incredible amount of care and careful sacrifice. Like, for instance, right in the middle of our shoot, a Grateful Dead cover band concert showed up at the hotel. 300 people we didn't know showed up right in the middle of the evening, and we just had to stop shooting that night, because they were like, well, we'll let you guys shoot here for 10 days, but on this day and this day, we're going to come in and screw you, and so we said, well, that's that's a trade-off we're going to have to risk. We're going to have to rush that day so you guys can get this other event in. So we negotiated with the hotel to let them, do things here and there around, but there were several times where we had to walk into the lobby and just basically say, like, this is ours for the moment. And that's a big ask for a Las Vegas hotel. That's like, Ocean's 11 level shit. And then the fact that we even got away with it is a miracle. They were not super happy about it after signing the contract. So, but we got it all done, everything, but that was definitely the biggest challenge, was justifying and, getting away with that kind of expense for a kind of proof of concept web series. Very financial. I think those were the challenges for us.
I just want to say something really quick, because we're not to say you didn't say this. We're a union show too, and we all SAG actors. All our money goes to our actors. I've never made one dime off of Pretty yet, other than like I said, eBay. But none of the producers get paid. We pay everybody as well, and we really work a budget, and we go from a independent film model of what they're paying independent film-wise, and we negotiate with our actors directly and make sure that everybody, including, we offer as many people as we can. And then we have so many people who are very good friends of mine who won't take my money and turn it down and would rather see it go right back into a publicist or marketing, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm right on board with you in that. In the same way, all our whole cast is SAG as well. So Brendan's we both share Brendan, so that's
With I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, just on the fact that with Comedy Hour, it took us 2 years to do it, basically because with us, we didn't have a budget. It was just me and Jeff, and so whether it was trading favors or, of course, with that we had to work around everyone's schedule, and that was something that we just kind of expected, and so it'd be one of those things where, and sometimes it was either me or it was Jeff, because it was Jeff has bills to pay and I have bills to pay, and we haven't made a cent on this either, and all the money that we've put in this show has only gone for equipment rentals. My DP that I use, Chris Darnell, I've worked with him. I went to college with him. We've worked here for over 10 years now, and he loves the show, and so he's like, I just want to do this, but if I have anything else, I'll just go do that. And so that's kind of just been our thing, and it's one of those things where, with that show, it'd be like, hey, are you free this Saturday? Maybe we'll shoot another episode, and we would, but there was, the money that was put in the show was money that me and Jeff would just have extra, we kind of would just save up. And so basically the way we would try to make sure everyone was happy was to keep the hours short. We're shooting an episode in 3. On average, we shot an episode in about 5 hours, so they're only half days. But then we just had a ton of half days to finish the show, and then we made sure that everyone ate well and made sure that everyone wanted to be there because even when we were done, everyone offered to come back and everyone offered to work for free just because they love the show so much, and we do it's very rare. Like I said earlier, I don't enjoy myself on set that much just because I take it so seriously, and it's not one of those things where it's I never really have a blast shooting things. It's at the end I look back on it and I'm proud of it and happy about it. But when we're shooting it, it's extremely hard work. But with Jeff's show, it's almost like a break for us in a way, to where we do take that show seriously. We want it to be good, but fortunately with the Kickstarter, now we have funding, and now everyone who work for us, we can now thank them by offering them paid work, and then with that, now we have a schedule that people can commit to, and now we can pay people, which has been nice for us. And of course, me and Jeff just aren't. We're doing this because we love it. So, but in the end, we will be the only ones who will not get paid for this. But as far as SAG goes too, we're actually working on that right now too. So we're happy that we can now do SAG, and that's a whole new world for me because I'm a director, not a producer, and so. Jeff's working on that now, and he's like, yeah, so now we can do DVDs and we can do this, but then with that comes a whole bunch. So it's a brand new world that I'm learning, but it's really fascinating.
So does anybody have any questions? You can come up to the mic there, and any hecklings?
I believe this question was about how networks, if they approach you, if they want you to alter your idea at all. Is that right, sir?
Mr. Clancey.
Yes?
Yeah. Well, obviously, listen to you guys, and see you guys working, it's fantastic. And seeing at what point from conception to where, somebody else grabs a hold, and wants to make it to something else. I mean, you were saying that you shot in Las Vegas. There's a lot of, stuff you have to jump through to get that. Yeah. And
Yes.
That's credibility. That's a lot of stuff to answer right there.
I think the short answer for the Guild is that Felicia's taken several meetings, and of course, the trade-off is more money, but you have to answer to more people, and there's a bigger chance that your product is going to get distilled. And we've been incredibly lucky with the Guild working with Microsoft that it has been like the most hands-off process ever, because they were just like, we make. We don't make video. We'll distribute it. It's not our job. So you guys seem to be doing well. But I mean, I don't think this was supposed to happen, but they would literally be getting the edits from Sean to upload, and they'd be like, hey guys, this is great. We love it. Like literally, they hadn't read the script. They hadn't seen any cuts. That was just, I think, a product of a giant corporation, and we just sort of fell through the cracks at a certain point, which was to our benefit. But yeah, so Felicia's always said there's got to be exactly the right thing for her to take it to network. And I don't know about you guys, but with our show in particular, because we're talking about, how crowdsourced these are, the idea of the Guild being able to jump to a network, but a network being like, oh, and by the way, you have to fire the entire cast because we want X, Y, and Z. I don't know what that would do to our fan base. I mean, I think people would be up in arms. So it's a whole, it's a really, really different question, I think, than a lot of, it's just different. So it kind of answers it.
We've pitched to a few places ourselves, and the responses have always been fascinating to me. Comedy Central loved our show and then explained that we weren't their audience. And then I went back to them and said, but you did Ab Fab and you did Strangers with Candy. Yeah, but I don't know. That's not, and I don't believe that they know who their audience is. TBS, who does that whole So Funny thing, that's their whole, slogan. They greenlighting new shows left and right, comedies, and they turned us down because they said that they're doing more Parenthood and Gilmore Girls style shows, which in the last 2 years I've yet to see them do one, but it is what it is. I think the interesting response, we pitched to Fox, and the response was that they loved it, but they know that the people at Fox would say, why is a grown woman playing a 5-year-old? Why don't we just cast a 5-year-old? And at that point, they've missed the point, and what I set out to do, and what we set out to do as a team, and we set out to just tell a really funny story and have a really good time, and that was our goal, and we never thought, we'd be sitting in Las Vegas on a panel, or, at awards, or getting the kind of audience we've gotten. And Felicia's living my dream, because I would love for Microsoft to come and say, here, come work for us and get to do your thing, and pretty much get to do it the way you want to do it. I think that's any artist's dream. So it's very inspirational in a way, I think.
With our show, we've tried to pitch it around. Obviously, with the first season, like I said before, we just did it when we could, but then we wanted to do more. It was like, let's see. Because a lot of people really responded very positively to the show and wanted to take meetings to pitch other stuff. And so Jeff and I have gone around pitching other series, some of them based on sketches that he's written and kind of expanding it. But as far as this show, just in general, we're a sketch comedy show. So all of our episodes they're all self-contained. Like, there's no arc. There's no, Jeff plays a different character in every episode. So the problem with that is no one's looking for that. Everyone wants something with an arc to keep people coming back. And like, one of our selling points is that you can jump in at any point, which is great for what we're doing. But as far as like trying to get funding, it's just one of those things where we've gotten the exact same answer from everybody. They're just like, no, no one wants to do sketch comedy right now. No one wants to do one-offs. Everyone wants something like the Guild, or like Video Game Reunion, like, something where it's an overall seasonal arc that's part of a larger story made up of individual seasons, which is what this show isn't. So, but through that, we have been able to expand a few, and we've gotten definitely some interest for individual sketches that have kind of like spawned into like 5-6 episode series pitches with a full story being told in the end. But yeah, as far as sketch comedy though, and I've seen that on TV a lot too. It's very rare to see a lot of sketch comedy shows come and kind of stay. Like, they kind of just seem to come and go, and I don't know if that's for the same reason or what, but it sucks for me because I love sketch comedy and it's a lot of fun. I'd love to see more, and I know that there's some really solid writers and performers. Just through Jeff, I've met a lot of the people he's been performing with, and they all have their own sketches, and they're funnier than anything I've seen on TV. But I don't know. I think it's just what it is for the time. But for me, it does make sense for a business model, and that's why we just continue just to fund this ourselves.
Yeah, I'm a studio person, so I think like the studios think, and at least I like to think that I do. And I would never pick up VGR if I was a TV network. We didn't build VGR to try to put it on television. It would never work on TV. It was specifically built for the internet. We'd probably get our asses sued if we put it on television. It's parody, but it's walking a very fine line, and it also just isn't built for TV. It's the entire show was structured for internet. If I was a TV network, I don't know how I would pick up any of these shows in the existing format that they're in now. They're just these. I think the thing that's the closest of all of them would probably be the Jeff Lewis 5-minute comedy hour. I think if I was comedy, first of all, Comedy Central was awesome to us. They didn't screw with VGR at all. They bought it in the first meeting. They bought it off of a pitch, which was very clear. When we sent them the script, they sent us back 8 pages of extremely detailed legal notes that were incredibly helpful. They actually were not invasive at all. They told us that even with the legal notes they provided, we could ignore all of them if we chose to, and they would still air the show, but we would accept liability for it. And during the creative process, they never once screwed with us. They gave us 3 or 4 editorial suggestions, one of which was very strong that we fought on, and they eventually let us go through with it. I don't know if anybody's seen VGR, probably not, but there's a scene where somebody vomits a lot. I mean, it was epic. It's 60 or 70 seconds, and it's just at some point you're like, this is like a Family Guy long vomiting sequence. And if somebody at Comedy Central did not like that, and they sent back all capitals, like, this is not going to go into the show, and I had to go into this whole that was the only time they did that, and it still went into the show. And they were very, I gotta say my experience with them was very positive. I understand everybody pitches to Comedy Central. Obviously everybody's pitched something to them. I understand why they pick things up and don't pick things up. I think they have a very specific thing that they're trying to do, and they're just actually trying to figure that out right now. I do think they should be picking up more sketch comedy. I think that I'd like to see more stuff like Jeff Lewis 5-minute comedy. I think that's the most likely pickup for somebody like a Comedy Central from what we're doing up here. But I gotta say, I understand why it's difficult for people to bring some of their shows from the web to these more traditional formats, because these guys, it's not that this is a building full of people that, as much as people don't like to admit it, they know what they're doing. These guys are out there with ad sales departments making a lot of money. They might not be doing the things that you like. They might be doing something that's really odd and doesn't make a lot of sense. But these guys have so much visibility into these demographics and into the world of where money's coming from in media that what the web community just doesn't have. The decisions that they're making usually have reasons that just aren't immediately obvious. So then they're thinking about the bottom line. They're picking up shows that are going to make money. They're picking up shows that are going to have long-term library value to them. Like, oh, if I have this show and I'm actually going to be able to sell access to this in 7 or 8 years, whereas if I pick up this show, it might be funny right now, but it's worthless to me as library content. And people need to start building up libraries. And that's just one of a million reasons why a network might not pick something up when it seems like they should. So I understand why they think that way, and it's not because they're big evil corporations. It's usually because they're trying to do something, and they know when they get to work in the morning, they know what that thing is and you don't. And if you come in and you pitch them something that fits into the thing that they know they want to do, you've got a much higher chance of getting picked up than trying to sell them something they didn't know they wanted yet. So that's just one take on studios picking things up.
We had an excellent collaboration with BBC Worldwide, My Damn Channel. We were in talks for a minute with IFC to do a 30-minute show, which would probably look something like Mr. Bean, just various situations of Gigi running into. But they didn't want to bring on they didn't want to guarantee that our entire team would be included. So we decided we'd stick with another season online and see if we can garner more support that way.
Any other questions from the audience? Avi?
Yeah, I got one. Wait, to the mic. How is the shrimp cocktail? That will make no sense unless...
Nobody does it.
Yeah, well, everyone's been stalking you on Twitter anyway. Hi, guys. So all of these shows, which are awesome, you guys all walk, at least, at some point in an episode or two, if not in an entire season's lines between what could be very funny and extremely offensive. And I'm wondering if there's an example of something, like you and I talked a little bit about this, Sean, like something that you guys were just like, we gotta walk away from this. Was there ever something that you felt, and you sort of touched on it with the vomiting too, like was there ever something that you felt might have been too far that looking back you're either really glad you didn't do it or kind of wish you had?
We cut something. Yeah, we cut something. We shot something and cut it. We shot something that was so goddamn offensive. Like I was watching it on set, and it was I was watching it. I was uncomfortable. It was written funny, and then you see it play out, and it's just not. And you have to finish shooting it, and there was like 3-angle coverage of it, and it took about 45 minutes in the lobby of this hotel with a very young girl, and it was like an older woman in a thong, and it was like you look at it and you're like, this is just not gonna work, but you're halfway into it. And when we watched it in the edit room, everybody was looking at each other like, what were we thinking? This is so offensive. And my threshold for offensive is way up there. Like I'll air almost anything, but this one joke, it just landed so wrong. Like the read was just so mean, and everybody looks at each other like, we cannot put that in the show. But that's a very rare experience. I feel like we air almost anything, unless it's if it's funny, it goes in. But if it's not, it doesn't. I think that's the decision, and it wasn't funny, so we cut it.
We didn't cut anything from this show. We had, like I said before, and it's funny to talk serious about it, but the shit-eating episode with Jeff Lewis, there was a big debate that we had at the beginning because the sketch starts with him just finishing it, and that's what we always wanted to do. We're like, there's no reason to show him actually do it like that. That to me is disgusting and unnecessary, and I don't, like, let's see what happens after, you know. But the big debate was what should be on the plate, and I remember Felicia Day saw the episode, and we're like, hey, what do you think? And her biggest criticism was, why didn't you put shit all over the plate? Like, we should have seen, like, the remainder of, like, a smear. I'm like, no. And that was the one thing that her, and actually I think someone else had brought it up too, but that was the biggest thing where we were just like, we just didn't want to even just deal with it because we just thought that the concept enough is gross enough, but it's all implied, so we wanted to keep it that way. But I think as far as cutting stuff out, in the show, everything's the way it was shot, but it was in the script selection process. Jeff definitely has a handful of sketches that I think are absolutely hilarious, but there's no way we can shoot these sketches because they are so... Dude, just go to HBO Sketchpad online, because Jeff has performed. He did perform a few of these, not the ones we've shot, but he's performed some of them. This show back, I don't know when it was a while back, but HBO did a sketch show a while back where you could, they would go to a certain company, and so at that time it was, I think the Acme company, and so which Jeff was involved in, so they aired 2 of his sketches live, and one of them is, and Jeff wants to shoot it for the show, and I told him absolutely not. Dude, first of all, that sketch plays out really well on stage in front of like an audience, where for these shows, I've been to a lot of them, and I feel like you can get away with a lot more because those audiences are going and they kind of know what they're in for. Whereas online, it's a wide variety, especially with us. We've got Guild fans. I mean, we've got a lot of Guild fans who don't like this show, and they want to see Vork, and they don't want to see Jeff doing things they're doing, and we've gotten a lot of complaints about it, and people just say, I mean, well, then go watch the Guild. That's why the Guild exists. Like, we don't want, like, this is something different from that, and with us, it's benefited because we've got a lot of fans from that, but then with that too, a lot of people just were like, this is disgusting, and I'm like, I somewhat agree with you, but it's still kind of funny. But no, so with us, we won't air certain or shoot certain sketches just because we just know that it's just going to be too much.
I created these characters. We created this world. They are blissfully ignorant, and we say, I don't want to say horribly racist things, but we have across the board insulted everybody in the most blissfully ignorant way because they believe it. They're a family from the South, and they say what's on their mind. And then when I wrote the very first line for Annette, which was, when I grow up and I want to be a princess and live in a big tower so no Jews can get me. And from the get-go, it was because that's what her father's been saying, and she believes. I think the most dangerous thing we have done was this season was when, and Stacy and Sam and I sat down and we went over it. She's going to the Miss Black Star Eyes pageant because her mother's black and her father's white. And we got Stacey O'Cornrow's wig, and we really went right to the line with it, and she had to use the N-word. and not in a destructive, horrible, calling somebody the N-word. She used it because that's what she's been hearing around the house, and she just throws it out to Michael, and we bleeped it, of course. We bleep a lot of things, and then Sam was so nervous because the character goes up to his wife and says, "I don't want her saying that word." What word? The word that white people aren't supposed to say. What word? What white people aren't supposed to say. You know, that word. I have no idea what you're talking about, and he played it. It's the most connected actual Sam. Almost, because he was so nervous to do it. I said, just keep looking. You know, we're a documentary, mockumentary as well. I said, just keep looking at the camera. I said, just do it as you would do it. And it's exactly how I wrote it. And he just had to look at the camera and say, it starts with an N, ends with an Iga, and then she punches him in the face. And what the hell are you talking about? Why would you say that to me? And that is as close as we've gotten, and we went with it, and our audience accepted it, and that's pretty, for us, that's pretty far. The only time we've ever gotten a complaint, and it was one time, and it's from the very first episode of Pretty, from the first season, is they say Michael says, we're going to the Miss Starry's pageant, and Annette says to win, and if we don't win, and she goes, it's okay, and he says, as long as we don't lose, and she goes, to a Mexican. And then he stops, and he looks at the camera, and he goes, our hearts, as long as we don't lose our hearts. I don't know where she gets this, and then the improv begins where she's like, Daddy says, and she starts saying all these derogatory things that her father says about Mexican people. And we had one apparently Mexican person who watched the show and found no humor in that whatsoever. And then it was actually a friend of yours, wasn't it? You don't know, it was somebody, a Facebook friend, a close Facebook friend, but it took her, and she did find the humor in it later when, you know, there is a line, and I think that we have yet to find what that line is, and I'm sure it'll happen sometime very soon.
We towed the line a little bit in the poker episode. Gigi has to repeat the N-word, and that got him into trouble. We didn't really get any blowback for it. I think we also had a West Memphis 3 reference in there, which we cut or didn't use. But I think the aspect that was the most, or that has been the most sort of, I wouldn't say controversial, but people have had trouble with it, is that it was actually the very first episode that was written was the blood episode where Gigi accidentally goes into a blood bank and doesn't realize he's going to donate blood, and then all of a sudden there's blood flying everywhere. And when Josh first gave me that script, I said, come on, man, blood everywhere, you know what that's going to entail? And sure enough, it was a big headache, but it looks great. If I do say so myself. But a lot of people have said that just seeing that amount of blood, if they're kind of queasy with blood, it's hard for them to see it.
We put babies in a cage in season 1, so I think that's, after that, yeah, it's kind of all downhill.
So we really should wrap up at this point. If you guys could take a minute to tell everyone where they can find you and your shows online, and then we're done.
You can find us at watchtheguild.com, and then Felicia has a new YouTube channel that's going to debut in April that myself and our producing partner Sherry Bryan are helping with, and that's Geek and Sundry. So youtube.com/Geek and Sundry.
You can find us on YouTube, just YouTube Gigi Almost American. That's where our show page lives. You can also see us on mydamnchannel.com/Gigi. And we're just trying to organize the funds for a second season. So hopefully you'll see more Gigi soon.
We are on 5minutehour.com. That's both 5 and the number and written out. And then youtube.com/5 the number minute hour, where we'll be. We're hoping for an April release for season 2, which we're currently shooting right now.
You can try to find us at videogamereunion.com, but since adam.com is kind of slowly going out of business or whatever they're doing with it, the player tends to break, so we swapped them all out for other players. So yeah, try videogamereunion.com, and if not, I think it's on gametrailers.com too. Hopefully.
We have our own website, it's prettytheseries.com. We're in the middle of our 3rd season, 2 more episodes left, and we'll see if there's going to be a fourth.
I'm at Geeky Jessica on Twitter, and my show is at awkwardembraces.com. Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it.